Stump the Intern! You are watching the full version of Stump the Intern without edits. Please watch for a whole question, for the intern may be corrected.
Let's open tonight with prayer. Obviously, the idea is not that you try to stump me, but that you walk away with truth and answers.
Why is it called Stumping Your Intern?
Because you try and it's subliminal.
And it's fun
So
that
you
way.
try to stump me, yet you still get the truth.
It's
It's like telling a kid to eat ice cream so they can take medicine.
Yeah, like the chocolate was mixed with the ice cream.
Right.
FYI, thanks a lot, hospital.
I make you like how I feed you it, but you still get it.
Yep.
So, let's open with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word, that we can learn from it and live by it. We thank you for your Son, and as you sent him to die on the cross for each and every one of our sins, that we might be redeemed, that we might be saved by your grace, Lord. We thank you that your word is true, and in it we find all we need for life. But most of all, Lord, we find you in it. Lord, I pray that we'd be able to pass on truth this evening as we have a discussion for questions, Lord. And I pray that we could answer their questions and so that they may understand better who you are and how much you've loved us and what you've done for us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Did I
First
preach
Stump
enough?
the Intern question. Do we have Case for Christ here at the church? And do we have the mini Story of Hope book? Or is it just the one I have?
We do have the story of hope.
Do we have the one that's small too? Or just the...
We can look.
Okay. Sorry, before
Your
I forget
dad's
my
not
questions.
giving me a yes or no.
Do you know?
Not that I know of.
I think I have my copy, but that means I need to go
I
make sure.
can go look at home. My dad probably has a few copies
We need one.
for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd like to give it away. I'll give mine away if we don't have extras.
Oh, my dad has extras. Okay, so this is where I take questions.
Oh, I thought you were starting with the ones that were online.
Oh, did you want to start there?
Yeah.
I figured when you ran out of questions, you had backup to so you had more time to think more.
Well,
also,
once you start to
when you
know
start
that it gives us
answering,
more
yeah, that's what I was
people,
gonna say.
thinking
That
of
inspires
things.
us.
Because at this point, I have
Okay,
nothing.
so where's Lee? Lee is dealing with some disciplinary action. He has a summer assignment due in a few days that he's not done yet. It is very
Procrastination.
lengthy summer assignment. I was helping him with it, so I printed out a copy for myself.
Oh, is it
It is
math?
21 pages long.
Is it pre-count?
Calculus.
Ah.
The teacher does not mess around. So, those questions out of the way so I can cut things out like that. Okay, so, first question I have on my list, probably my most favorite question on here because I just preached through the book of Titus and that is where I draw my answer from, is can you share the gospel without words? So, and it says, for example, only by how you live. And it says in God's word, somewhere Apostle John says, they will know, okay, maybe not Apostle John. I have the general idea. I might not have chapter and verse, but I have the general idea. You guys,
You're good.
okay. So, he says, you will know them by their love. But I think better example is in the book of Titus because I'm a Titus Nazi. That makes it sound bad, but I love Titus.
Come on, man.
So in Titus in chapter 2, going into chapter 3, it talks about Christians living. It compares them to the outside world. And this whole book, for some commentators, is solely based on evangelism. And it never mentions that they need to share their faith with anybody.
Titus right now?
This is Titus.
That's so cool.
It simply reminds them of things to do, and it draws the contrast between Christians and the world. So I don't think I don't think we have to. We can still share the gospel without words, simply in how we live and how we portray. I can speak, definitely. Portray Christ. Pastor Tim's thinking.
What is the gospel?
What is the gospel? The gospel is the good news. The fact that Jesus came down in the form of a man to save us. What does that mean? He bared the penalty of our sin, and you can probably rabbit trail off that even some more. But he bore our penalty of sin to the cross and paid the penalty so that we don't have to.
I'm sorry. I intended for you to tell me all those things without words.
So what Pastor's getting at is
No. The answer is no.
no.
You can make somebody ask questions. You can make somebody curious about the Christian life. You can show that you're different. You can show that you're a Christian. But that's not sharing the gospel. What you answered was, can you be a testimony? Can you show somebody that you're a Christian without words? Absolutely. But the question was, can you share the gospel?
This idea of like general versus specific revelation.
Very good, Josh. Excellent. You can give general revelation. But will general revelation save anybody? Is that the means of salvation?
No.
Okay, so go back to the passage where it says, how can they believe unless they have heard? How can they hear without a preacher? How can there be a preacher unless one is sent? What's a preacher do?
Proclaims
Uses
the good news
with
words. See, I can be wrong.
Yes.
That's
Well,
what
it's
he
only
said.
partially wrong because Titus still does say that,
Well,
that like living the Christian life
okay.
is a testimony. So it's just a definition of words difference.
Well,
that
this
we
is
have
what
to
I
be
was
careful
getting at
of.
with you, Richie. Is you got to define what it means, what the question is. You were right in your answer, but not to that question. That question says sharing the gospel, not can you be a testimony, and that's the difference. And that's what I'm being nitpicky with you about.
Right.
We had someone come to our church recently, who I'll probably tell this story many times, but it's like my favorite story ever. Who we weren't sharing anything about the gospel, but the way we were living, like Titus, made her ask about it. Who is
That's you.
texting me?
That's you. Might be at 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Pastor Tim's
Oh,
getting
talking
up.
about college night. That's
I
fine.
should have brought my Bible notes from school.
Oh gosh. I gave you a really hard one on purpose, but you hear
I'm
like a lot of
keeping
things on
score,
both sides.
and so far I'm winning.
Oh, stop it.
Okay, follow-up questions from that.
Okay.
That I can possibly hear points from.
Well, it's not really a stumpy question, but did you ever get to share the gospel with anybody?
Have I personally shared the gospel with anyone directly? No. A few weeks back, we had youth event in which we, for whatever reason, we hadn't had a youth group the previous night before, and I just felt I can't dig into Philippians. It just doesn't feel right to dig into Philippians knowing that there's possibly unsaved teens coming tonight. So I went to Pastor and was like, give me a passage that I can share with the teens. And that's why a few weeks ago we went over 1 John 1.
The same one we've been memorizing, which made it so seamless.
When did we go over 1 John 1?
When Halo was here.
Which time?
The time
One
when
at our house?
No, the time
No,
was here.
time after
Right over
that.
there. In the other room.
It was game night.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's why we flipped over to
I
1
feel like
John
that
1.
totally counts.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's
I
not like
didn't
one to
directly
one,
one-on-one
but it's still sharing it. So it's like
sharing it.
yeah. But in, like Paul did.
What are the important elements of the gospel? What are the, boil it down to the irreducible minimum.
Irreducible minimum.
That's a trick. Oh man, you are stumpy.
Usually
Since we
we're
don't-
trying to stump him.
Okay, so the essence of this question, the problem with an irreducible minimum is you're looking at this is what you need in your message to share the gospel. This is like your notes on the side while you're sharing the gospel. I wouldn't give an irreducible minimum to share the gospel, but as support for someone trying to share the gospel. And I say that simply because if I say the word, or as I start here, humans are innately sinful. That may not make sense to someone you're sharing the gospel with. But that is the first step in understanding the gospel. And someone has just arrived.
In here, Audra.
Hi, Audrey.
Hey.
Hi.
Welcome to the party.
Thank you.
PT has just
We
asked
stumped
the
Richie.
question.
Oh, you stumped Richie already?
Yeah.
Kind of.
It
He got like
really-
partial credit.
Dad got point.
Anyway, so
What was
PT
the
just
question?
asked. The question was, can you share the gospel without words? And PT nitpicked at my answer.
Wait, make her answer. Can you?
Can you
Share
share the gospel without words?
I know, I'm so mean. It's just, this is.
You're a terrible person, Samantha.
Teens might get a point if she gets it right. So.
Okay, that depends on what you define words as. Words as in spoken words, words as in the word of God, words as in can you sign the words, can you write?
So,
That's what it
Look at how
depends
she
on.
starts with the definition.
right. That was
Good
what
job.
I came in
Audra. You started in the right place.
tonight thinking. You need to really look at the way you're defining the words when you ask a question. So the conclusion I came to was yes. And PT was like, no, you're wrong. I said, yes, the way you live allows you is subtle evangelism. But
Like
PT
being a
said no,
testimony.
because as we see in the scriptures, how will they know if they do not hear? How will they hear if someone does not tell them? Yada, yada, yada.
It's just
It
like
was
the
in to preach the
difference
good
between
news.
testimony and gospel, right?
Again,
So-
I get the point.
The way that you live, there are many people who aren't Christians that the way that they live is very good works. And so just by doing good works and just by living your life well doesn't necessarily give the people the idea that, oh, they're a Christian.
Okay, which brought us back to the current question
I'm sorry.
of what is the gospel.
The
And
irreducible minimum.
So we're at the what is the gospel? How PT said you can't share that without words. If the preach that you cannot hear. So we're at what is the irreducible minimum of the gospel? I just talked about what defines the irreducible minimum. I said I wouldn't give an irreducible minimum gospel message to anyone, but as support for someone trying to give it. So the first thing was man is innately sinful by nature. Thus, God had to prepare, God being just, had to make a way that man could be saved, and thus Christ came down from heaven, became a man.
Back up. You skipped a step.
I skipped a step.
Go back. Think it through. So what that they're simple? What do I care?
Man is sinful.
So what?
How is God?
God is just.
So? What does God's justice have to do with my sinfulness?
Okay, so man is innately sinful, and because God is just,
You must.
man must pay for his sinfulness, his breaking the law of God.
That's the step.
It's by being fulfilled, right? That's the next
By
part.
the punishment being fulfilled, the punishment being death. We see that in Romans 3:23. Wages of sin is death, the gift of God is eternal life. So, if the gift of God is eternal life, how did God, who is just, make that able to happen? He sent his son to die on the cross for us.
For the YouTube listeners, it's Romans 6:23. Romans 3:23 for all have sinned.
For all have sinned. So that would be the first step. All have sinned. God is just.
I'm
he
having
has
fun.
to. Of course, you're having fun.
So
That is just
because usually
has
it's
to
you that's
punish
being questioned.
Well, and now
the
he gets
sin, the breaking of his law. Penalty is death, and so to make way, the good news is that Jesus came down to bear our penalty. He did that on the cross. Being the Son of God, on the third day he rose again, and thus giving us life.
Awesome. Everybody's saved.
If
Irreducible minimum.
we believe in Christ as Savior.
We can receive that gift at
Justice.
grace through faith in Jesus Christ.
Grace through faith.
Yeah. Okay.
That
I love poking holes. Okay, I'm done. I'm
Are
setting
we
it up.
nitpicking? Because it's not really a hole. A hole is like your entire argument is wrong because of this. Nitpicking is you kind of missed the detail.
anyway.
So
Good
that's
job.
my turn to nitpick him. You're welcome.
By faith. And that will come up later in a different question, but yes. Other questions?
I had
Follow-up
one as I
questions?
was walking in that kind of like it's kind of weird. Okay, so it kind of goes along with angels, right? So it's
Angelology.
sure if you want to call that. So did angels? Okay, so angels, I'm guessing, they're not perfect because they're not God, but at what point does he, like, they're not human, so can they sin at all? Do they have free will? What, like,
Okay.
Oh, that's a stumpy one.
If I'm recalling my biblical raising correctly, and I can't give you verses specifically
Right.
on this, and I may be faulty, and that's why Pastor's here to correct me. Pastor's leaving.
No, I shouldn't.
Are you
He's gonna bring a book in. That's all right.
he has a
So-
lot of books. Would you like
Commentary?
to the office? So
If
that you
I'm-
can
A book about it.
library?
If I'm remembering
we're
correctly,
recording, so we have to move the camera.
angels were created, so they are created beings, so they're not perfect, as God is, and they were given a choice. We see Lucifer being one of the high angels. He's given a title that I'm not.
Archangel?
Archangel.
Wasn't he just second in command to God or something like that?
He was very
he was
high.
high priest of the angelic order, something like that.
I'll correct you when you say something wrong.
So
He's
if
looking
not
for the
correcting
word
you,
that he's hoping you
that
know.
means you're right.
He was in charge of
Angels.
the other, gathering the other angels, help, leading them in worship. And we see him choosing to rebel against God. And then the angels are given a choice at that point whether they follow after Lucifer or they stay loyal to God at that point. That's when we see the 1/3, I'm pretty sure, separate.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a lot of angels, that's right. But there are 2 angels for every demon that means.
When were the angels created?
To get back to that, I don't think I finished your question. So, where did your question continue? So, if I'm correct, they are now sealed,
They're now sealed?
And they don't. So the
and
ones.
so those that have fallen away with Lucifer, they're already sealed,
Right,
and their punishment awaits them at eternity.
right. So are the angels in heaven sealed then, or do they still have the choice to turn?
All angels are
I
sealed.
think they're sealed. Is that right?
That's pretty cool. that they're all sealed.
So it's like basically the angels are what would have happened to us if not for the Garden of Eden and Jesus. Kind of.
Mhm.
So I only want to interject one thing in your answer. You said they weren't perfect. They were created holy, just as Adam and Eve were holy.
Mm-hmm.
They were perfect. Adam and Eve were perfect. Not God, but perfect.
Mm-hmm.
God's creation
But
is
how God,
perfect.
the difference is like how God
Okay.
can't sin and
Okay.
they could.
Right.
So they're
Okay.
not perfect.
So,
humans, and that's
The angels that did not sin are called the holy angels, and they are sealed in their holiness. The angels that sinned are not redeemable. The one thing you might add to this question is one of the reasons they're not redeemable is because they're not a procreated race like we are.
Mm-hmm.
Every angel was an individual creation of God,
they made their choice.
and they made their choice. They don't procreate. They don't represent. One angel doesn't represent a race of angels. They are all individual creations of God.
There's not any more now than there was back at the beginning
They
of time.
do not die. They are immortal. They do not procreate. Correct.
To Josh's question, I have no idea.
He
said
before
When were they
the rest of
created?
creation.
I have an answer to that.
Is it what I said?
We don't know. We
Before
don't have
the
a
rest of
specific
creation?
time, but there is at some point
They were
in the creation account
Well, I mean, they were
of when
created before
we
Adam
see them for the
fell.
first time. It doesn't say, "And God on the first day created the angels," or
What we see is in the book of Psalms, I believe, where it says the stars of the morning sang the creation, and so that's referring to angelic beings, and therefore we believe they were created on the first or second day, and they witnessed and sang the rest of creation. So they had to be able to be a witness to most of the creation, but Genesis 1:1 is God created everything, the heavens and the earth. He created the stuff of the universe, the material and the immaterial, all on that day, and then he formed things out of what he created on day one.
So then when would Lucifer fell?
Before the fall of man.
So
But do we know the time that would have come between the two events?
We don't.
Nope, that's not specified.
Because it'd just be
It was
interesting to
not
see.
a long time.
if I
because it's
recall
when hypothesis
correctly,
stopped.
we don't know the exact time between creation and the fall of man, nor do we know the exact time between the creation of the angels and the fall of Lucifer. I think I was talking to Pastor Charlie about this, and he said something along the lines of the time between creation and the fall of man would not have been a prolonged period of time. There was,
Because she didn't even get pregnant. Let me just say that.
well,
That's one thing.
there's something I'm missing. I'm not. It was something there. I'm not remembering now, but it's the idea that they didn't stay in that state for very long.
I have a question now, because she said the word.
that's correct. Days or weeks, but not months or years.
And why? What's the reason? Is it what I said or is it something else?
The command to procreate didn't come till after the fall,
Oh, okay.
so we don't know that they even could have got pregnant before the fall.
So
Okay,
the
that
cultural
answers my
mandate
question.
Oh
came,
yeah, because that's an interesting one.
the cultural mandate came
Yeah.
after the fall.
He did.
My question was.
Let me finish this answer
I'm
just
sorry.
real quick. I think it has to do more with the fellowship and relationship with God. Eve seemed to be very ignorant still. And I don't mean that very naive, not ignorant, naive, still. And I think that has something to do with why scholars believe it was days or weeks. But your answer was correct.
Hey, we forgot
When you
to
spend
get her
very
a
long, you
I was
learn.
teasing on that.
You spend very long, you learn quick. So
So Audra has
My
a question for the
question-
intern.
Was going to be, and I'm not sure if it's really a valid question anymore because the command to procreate wasn't after, but if Eve had gotten pregnant before the fall of man, would her child still have the sin of Adam, or would he or she have been let back into the Garden of Eden because they had not sinned before he was created?
So would they be perfect or would they have the sinful nature?
I think Dad was interested in how maybe they couldn't get pregnant.
I don't think they would have the inherently sinful nature because they weren't conceived in sin.
Right.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
That Adam's supposed to be the representative of the human race.
Because that's
Yes.
kind of where we get
you get
our
that
origins
Adam
of Adam.
is representative of the human race. The direct fall of man comes at Adam's sin, not Eve's.
That's correct.
What I was going to get at for this question is, I don't know. This is very
Hypothetical. What if.
very hypothetical. What if?
It's opinions.
Okay, what is your opinion of what would have happened?
Pastor Tim is shaking his head at me.
Don't answer it. There's a reason why not to. God's plan laid down before the foundation of the earth included sin. There is no answer to the hypothetical. It would not have been possible. Okay? Because it would have gone against God's redemptive plan, and the whole plan of creation was a redemptive plan. What does it say about Jesus Christ? When was he crucified? Before the foundation of the earth. How could he have been crucified before the foundation of the earth if he was crucified 2,000 years ago? Okay, it has to do within the mind of God. It has to do with his plan. And therefore, that to dwell on the hypotheticals of these kind of things is really fruitless for all of us. And so I don't think it's of any value to try to figure out an answer. If I will answer it for you a little bit, Audra. Okay? He would have been born perfect because there was no sin. All right, but then we have a problem because we have a perfect race of man and an imperfect race of man.
An imperfect race of man who's an infant.
So because he would have
So-
been, that cannot be part of the plan of how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. So
But he would have been.
So he could not have inherited the sin nature if there was no sin nature to inherit.
Okay.
But again, I'm answering it, but that is not a possible
Right.
thing to have happened.
So then was the fall of the angels.
You're asking him.
Sorry.
I mean,
So then was the fall of the angels and the kind of, I guess, not revolution, because that's more of a revolting, kind of positively, I don't know. Anyway, was that also part of the plan, or would Adam and Eve have sinned in other ways without the temptation of Lucifer?
Oh.
It's a lot of hypothetical.
They could have
It's
still
not
eaten.
really-
Sorry, I'm gonna inject.
A hypothetical.
So your question is, without the fall,
the first part of the question is, was it part of the plan? Start with that.
I was getting into restating her question. But, so your question was, if Satan or Lucifer didn't sin against God, picture himself higher, would humans have eventually fell?
Oh, good word.
Fallen. Thank you.
Then
So, as Pastor was saying, was it part of the plan? No. God's plan was. Did I?
If it's a redemptive plan, doesn't someone have to fall first? You have to
It
be
is-
redeemed from something?
What has happened that's outside of God's plan?
Nothing's outside of God's plan.
Thank you.
You cannot get outside of God's plan.
I was about to say, wait,
We have a
huh?
question on that for later.
okay.
So
For
was
Joshua and Bunny.
the
So-
fall of Satan inside of part of
Would-
God's plan?
Exactly. So was the fall of Satan inside of God's plan? Yes.
Thank you.
Did it
Therefore,
have to be? No.
God could have done it whatever way he wanted to, but God chose it this way. And because the chief end of man is to glorify God, then I can only assume that by that, this somehow is the way that God is glorified most.
How big was
That's
the
a
garden
really
of
good
Eden?
answer.
Sorry, I'm thinking about animals, and I'm thinking, okay, no, this is how I got to that question. Let me explain. So what I'm thinking is Adam was tasked with naming the animals, correct? Okay, so my question is, was the earth, was it Pangea? And if it was like Pangea, well then,
Okay.
we know it was huge, right? Okay,
So-
let me say, can I finish where my train of thought went? Because that was a really random question.
Yes, this is interesting.
So were the animals, because there are a lot of different kinds of animals, but we don't know how many kinds there were at creation and how many are due to like microevolution rather than macroevolution, right?
Okay.
So were they all clustered and they all spread out after the fall of man, or were they all kind of like spread out and he had to go find? I'm confused about.
Oh,
That's kind of why I asked how big was the Garden of Eden. 'Cause
So
I assume they
let's
didn't
look
leave
at
the garden.
Genesis.
That's a good place to start.
It's a really great place to start. In fact, I find it the wisest place to start, especially when you're talking about this. So it says beginning in verse 20,
1 verse 20.
Genesis 1:20.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 20, going on down to
My Bible in the car.
verse 31, all through the end of the chapter.
Uh-huh.
He begins to, this is Moses recording, he says, then God, look, this is where he gets into day 5, where he creates all the flying creatures, all the fish of the sea, and so on and so forth. So, if Adam is going to name all of the creatures, he needs to see all the creatures.
Right.
So this is my, what's the word you use?
Hypothesis?
My sanctified imagination. So, biblical view on Pangea, or a supercontinent of the sort, answers in Genesis, has that same thing. I don't think they call it Pangea, but they have a similar principle.
It's like one continent.
One massive
right?
continent.
Yeah.
And if we look at the flood, the idea is that this massive continent doesn't have many high mountains and whatnot. That is what they believe the island, the created land,
Continent.
to look like. God is all powerful. He can do it any way he wants. He can create all the animals in different spots and have Adam move to them. He can create groups of the animals in various places on the continent and then bring them all,
Only
one of each kind, to Adam. We know that God can control the animals. We'll see that if we flip a few chapters over to Noah and the flood. So that's not a problem. So, very much hypothetical. How did he? So we also have all of the sea and the flying creatures. Makes sense to me that God would have simply brought them to Adam. We know at this point the fall of man hasn't happened, so God could be walking with Adam. Hey, let's go look at this animal over here. But they also have to be on coastline.
Somebody's knocking.
I heard either the air conditioning or someone nodding.
They have to be on coastline instead of to name all fish.
Right.
Is there any reason to believe that the Garden of Eden wasn't the whole entire continent?
Well, then where would they have gone after the fall of man?
Then it would have
So-
had to shrink.
I don't think
Or
so.
the majority of the continent?
Because we don't know how.
Obviously, the Garden of Eden could have been the whole. No, it couldn't have been the whole island
It could have been the majority
because
of it.
we see that
Well,
the garden is closed off to them,
Tower of Babel was before or after?
and then
It
they're
would
no,
make sense to
no
shrink
longer
it.
able to come back into the garden.
Were they allowed to leave the
Go.
garden?
I don't see why not.
There was only one rule, right? So
There
They
was
couldn't
one
go
more-
back. No, set a guard.
Okay,
no, you missed
The
it.
one we were talking about,
Before the
how
fall.
big was the garden hypothetically? Was it
And
the whole
question
continent?
was the whole continent, most of the continent, was
Or-
it small?
And then Sam's question was, could they leave the garden?
Before the
Before
fall.
the fall.
Because there's only
Before
one
the
rule.
fall.
There's only one rule. You can't eat from the tree. Right? It's only rule.
So if their
So if it's
garden
small,
was
then
like
I think they can
inland,
leave, but
then
Tell me when
that
I'm wrong
could
if
go
that's not
somewhere.
right.
So, what was your answer on naming the animals?
That God
I
brought
gave
the
them all
animals to them.
hypothetical what ifs.
Basically,
God could have done it
About, like,
any
Noah.
way
Let
he
me
did.
let me ask you a couple questions. What day was Eve created? You know this. You don't have to look at it. What day was Eve created?
Day 6.
6.
Well,
Did
like
Adam
7
name
was
the animals
nice.
before or after her creation?
After. If I'm no, he didn't
220.
name
220.
before.
220.
no, before, because then he's like, none of these are like me.
Yeah, right.
How quickly did he name the animals?
Do we know
One
that?
day.
Took him a day.
Took him less than a day.
So
Wow.
first of all, your thing there
That
couldn't have
answers
been that
your
many
question.
because of all that little
That answers the
evolution.
Right.
Like
He
how we
could
have
not
one
have
dog,
gone all
and
over
we have 12
Pangea.
dogs now.
Naming
He's the
animals.
one that came up with all the weird names for the animals.
No, not
Okay.
necessarily.
Probably dog.
Not
You know, with, like,
exactly.
dog.
Well,
Or
it
wolf.
wouldn't have been all
You
our
have
English,
language.
Right.
and then we would
I know.
have had all our,
But
and we would not have
He's the one
had
named weirdly.
He
the
would've-
microevolution yet. So all those
Fish.
like
What
species and
what is
genus
missing in
and
verse
kinds
20
that just
that he
Fish.
didn't name?
And
Look at verse 20. What is missing that he didn't name?
What language were they speaking?
Plants.
The man
God
gave
knows.
names to all the livestock, to the birds of the sky, to every wild animal.
Fish.
So no the fish.
No fish.
Oh. Wait,
So I was wrong. What I said earlier was
about the coast.
So it didn't have to be on the coast. It could have been anywhere in Pangea. It could have been on a hill.
It kind of makes sense to
It
not
could've
be
been
on
on the top of a
coast, 'cause
mountain.
otherwise I would
Well, you
like,
had to
oh,
be
have
somewhere
it be
near
like the
water.
garden
Well,
is
it
there.
it had a wall around it, and there was a gate, and in the gate there was what was it?
What is he talking about?
Oh, a little mouse named Reepicheep.
If we were recording, I would do a little
you're probably out of shot.
You're out of the shot. It's like
Have
right
you
here.
never read The Last Battle?
Nope.
It's a garden on a hill.
Oh, stop it.
It does.
And
It
then
does.
she was the gatekeeper.
Mhm.
I am imagining a mountain,
Okay,
like the
so-
only part of the So land every that is animal's not have to come flat, with them.
Is
and
there
having
a
a garden
reason-
on top and a gate around it.
But is there a reason that God would not have referred to the sea creatures as wild animals? Or could he have been referring to them that way?
In context, I'm so used to answering the questions. You shouldn't have had me here.
Well,
Well, we
But
kind of
it's-
need
I don't want
Yeah,
to
it's a
speak
good thing
heresy
that
and
you
have
are.
them going home believing it, so that's why you're here.
Okay.
Error. You're not going to say heresy, okay? It might have a mistake.
No heresy here.
It will
No,
not be
no personal
purposeful.
mistakes. Just
Um,
maybe some accidental ones.
You were more versed. So
In context, he talked about the sea creatures, the fish, and so forth in chapter 1. He didn't use the same language here.
Okay.
So it
I like
precludes
Josh's
them.
question.
because he didn't repeat the same language.
What?
What language did they speak?
doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, I like
Did
that
they
one.
even speak?
Yeah.
Did they need to speak?
Or was it all just like
God
thoughts, but
says
then
he
what language
names
would
the
you
Was
use?
it,
animal.
was it telepathy?
Did he?
Oh, you mean
Did
did they
the
use
animal
sign
didn't
language
necessarily
instead?
have to say it aloud?
Have you ever seen Spy Kids where they can't speak, so they read telepathically?
Yes, I'd see that.
Right. And God can read all of our thoughts and know all of our intentions. So did they really need to speak out loud?
You know, did
But we're human. And
Verse
how
23
will
answers
other
the question.
humans-
Verse 23, 223. And the man said,
Okay.
this
But now
one
what
at
language?
last. What language? The language pre-flood. The pre-flood
What language? Well, wouldn't it been pre-Tower of Babel language?
I bet it was related to Hebrew.
Most likely.
Because
I
Why
wasn't
would it be
until-
related to Hebrew?
Because if the Jews are God's people,
That's what I was
then
thinking.
they would probably speak a variant of God's original language. It's just a guess, but.
I mean, it's an interesting
And-
guess.
Your
I
dad
seen
is
her
sitting
vote.
over there.
Linguistics Bob said no. I don't remember.
Do you
She
have a
said no.
different?
I don't know. No, she said them not
answer?
for
Or
scratch
is
that.
that just?
That's just my thing. I don't remember where I got it from. Do you think it's like that or not?
He's going
doesn't
back
know.
to the.
There's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, but I
There
can
was an
say
article
a hypothesis.
a couple of weeks, I think last week or the week before, talking about would there have been multiple languages before the Tower of Babel? Well, you talked about language, so I'm
Okay.
rabbit trailing a little bit, and they talked about so we see the confusion of the Tower of Babel, and
Oh.
we generally see that as when the multiple diverse languages become into existence. So were there multiple languages before that? And the conclusion obviously they came up with is there's no way of knowing. But believing in a intelligent pre-flood world, their hypothesis was there may in fact have been not languages as in like Spanish or Chinese or English, but languages, code languages for business secrets or whatnot.
You know,
Like
we
the
can,
military.
you know what? We can ask somebody eventually.
Like encryption and whatnot.
If
So
we
not
remember
like if you
questions,
read something, you
like
wouldn't
we'll solve the
automatically
line.
be
Just
able
all
to
of a sudden we
understand
know
it.
everything.
Okay.
Okay, I have another question that kind of.
I
But
got,
there
I
wasn't
got an
linguistic
answer to this. Hang on.
Okay.
And I'm going to send you to a passage here. Hang on. I'm finding it. I think it's chapter 11. Yeah, okay.
At one time,
Chapter
the whole
10. Skim through
We
it.
saw
Look for the
Paul.
word languages. Or language. This is pre-Tower of Babel. If chapter 10 is chronological with chapter 11.
So we see verse 31, these are the sons of Shem by their clans according to their languages in the lands in their nations.
Verse 5 says the same thing. Japheth's sons, their clans, and their nations, each
So
group had
like
its
what?
own
They
language.
had like they had their own languages and they had like a one language that everybody spoke to, or what?
Like a trade language?
That's what that sounds like to me, like a trade language, and that's the one that got all kinds of mixed up. That's crazy. That's crazy right there. That's crazy. I did not know that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy right there.
Yep, that's right.
I love you, Sam.
Sometime we
Love you
will do
too.
a study on the Tower of Babel, and I'll tell you what Dr. Blumenstock taught me.
Oh yeah, this can be interesting. I did like one tiny little one serial, and I was like, could someone please do
Because
something,
he blew my ever-loving mind,
including that thing right there?
including chapter 10. In fact, based on chapter 10.
Well, actually,
An
it's
interpretation of
very
chapter
interesting
11 based on chapter 10.
because
Bam!
we see
I'm ready for that one.
these are Jephthah's sons by their clans and their nations. Each group had its own language. But then we see over in chapter 11, at one time, the whole earth had the same language and vocabulary.
Wait, read
So
it
they
again.
all knew the
Can you
same
read it
exact
word for word,
amount
please?
of words.
Or is that what you just did?
That is word
That's
for
what you
word.
did.
At one time, the whole.
Huh.
This is our home in
So
Christian
at
Standard
least they
Version.
had a trade language that was identical.
Chapter 11.
No,
chapter
you can't.
10's
I don't
word
have
language is the common word language.
No, I don't.
See, now you got me going.
It's okay. We're interested.
Chapter
Right?
11, at that time,
Sorry.
the whole earth was of the same lip and the same tongue in Hebrew.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
The question is, what do these two words mean, lip and tongue? doesn't necessarily need spoken language.
Better get one back. This is my
Dr.
good-
Blumenstock's hypothesis
Stop to my waist
was-
and everything nice.
that this was a way of saying that the whole earth was of one nationalism.
You forgot an L in there. Nationalism. There you go.
Nationalism. They were
So they were collective
they had
instead of
clans,
spreading
but
out.
they had come together as one nation with one goal and one, what was the word he used? One goal, one
Purpose?
philosophy. One philosophy, one goal. Their purpose then was to build the Tower of Babel. And this word is repeated in chapter 11 over and over again. These two words, they were of the same lip and the same tongue. They were the same. And what did God confuse? He confused their lip and their tongue.
I still think it's really interesting.
So, is the Tower of Babel the source of language?
Babel.
Or is the Tower of Babel the source of nationalism? So we have one nation, one world government, one world everything. And God said, it's not time for that. That's not coming till the tribulation. Thousands of years away. Now is the time for nationalism. And he split them into their own nations, and all of a sudden each group wanted their own groups to be priority, and they wanted their own nationalistic ideas, and so they left. Yeah, America first.
I mean,
No, very seriously, America first.
So
Germany first.
so nationalism
France
is-
first. You know, Japhethites first. Shemites first.
that's
Hamites
America.
first.
I mean, everybody does it pretty much.
And so
So do we.
what you have at the Tower of Babel may have not been a multiplication or a confusion of the languages, but rather of the philosophy and goals of the people.
That makes much more sense to me because bilingualism, how can that
Now,
be?
does that blow your mind or what? It blew mine. Now, is this something that I would die on scripturally?
No, it's.
Not a chance.
It's not a hill you would die
Not
on.
a chance. I will not die on that hill.
The thing that I
I
still
hear
think
so many interpretations of the Tower of Babel. You know something? Yeah, like actually only 3, but I feel like that's kind of a lot. From like within our circle, I mean, like to hear from outer circle, but that one, that's a new one for me. The one where there was one language and then it split to languages, and then the third one, where the curse wasn't languages, but the curse was confusion of language, like as in that curse, it includes like error of grammar, like they had perfect grammar to where they actually understood everything they were saying and there wasn't that misunderstanding linguistically. That was with my grammar teacher. I mean, that's not necessarily like a opposing viewpoint. It's just like another perspective. So that was interesting.
So we can go through.
We should.
We could go through the whole Tower of Babel story and why this really fits in
Can you just tell me
To
where
what?
it is in the Bible?
chapter 11 of Genesis.
Thank
Chapter
you.
10, maybe.
10 and 11.
10 and 11 is.
Thank you.
Do you want him to do that one time if I'm sick and you guys can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, Dad.
the,
When you're my substitute, that's what you should. No, because I want to hear that.
the thing that I
That's not
still
Okay,
find is
back to Stump the Intern.
Alright,
Are
let's
you
go
having
to-
fun? I'm sorry, Richie. That was very fun for us. I hope
Thank
you-
you
I
for
enjoy
letting me
learning.
finish my sentence.
What was
So
your
you have to
second?
finish your sentence.
I was gonna say, the part that I was thinking was a little interesting, and I'm not sure I quite understand what they were saying is they said that everyone had the same vocabulary. So there wasn't a person that didn't understand as much as anyone else.
Again, the
as someone
Hebrew
else.
words mean lip and tongue.
Right.
So
It's a
don't
translation.
get hung up on the English word.
That's a good question though, because you had said that was translate always language, and she just said vocabulary. I'm not saying you said it wrong, but it clarified for her. But that's what I'm not.
Yeah, because the translation he used said vocabulary, and that was
Cool.
a little different.
Other questions on this, or shall we move on?
I'm good for now,
Well.
because I want like a
Watchers.
3-week
Watchers
series on
thinking.
it.
Okay, no. So I have one, it concerns like faults, and when you said Pangea, and then I thought about in science class I always learned, well look, all these plates come together, right? So what I was thinking, okay, so everything was created in the beginning, right? So were the fault lines created in the beginning, or were those something that occurred during the flood when the trenches in the bottom of the waters opened and gushing. So I was kind of wondering about that one.
Did you think about that by yourself? 'Cause, I mean, that was a pretty good answer to me.
No, well, my question is, did they exist prior, or was it like
Were the faults
Or
there
did I
before or
answer
after
it?
the flood? That's what she's trying to ask about.
yeah, the fault lines?
That's a great question.
Okay, I'm not gonna get
And
an answer.
I'm not the guy to ask.
That'd probably be like a geology,
you'll get up-
seismology, that stuff.
One day there'll be a great guy for you to ask. He has a couple holes right here and here, and he's got all the answers.
Right there.
He was there. I was not.
Okay.
I
So-
think after.
Your
Okay.
second
I don't know,
your
that's just-
second statement there makes the most sense to me, that they are the result of God opening up the
Okay.
waters of the deep.
And the other
Okay.
thing on what you were saying is probably by the point where you actually read him that question isn't really gonna matter too much to you anymore.
You know something else that's cool? It's fun to have all these questions, but if it's technically not stated in here, then we don't technically need to know it. It's
Read Genesis 10:25.
10:25.
I didn't know all these verses like that.
I just looked it up on Google.
10:25.
Uh-huh.
Eber had two
10:25.
sons. One was named Peleg, for during his days the earth was divided, and his brother was named Joktan. Oh, okay.
So
I
what
see
now?
what he's getting at. The world was divided.
The earth.
The earth. So the
The
earth
land.
meaning
this kind of earth.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the earth, the way that the faults.
So the
are
Bible
basically
records,
plates.
and Answers in Genesis will say that they think this is referring to the Tower of Babel. I disagree. I disagree. I think that this is the earth, the Bible recording the major continental shift that happened at a very rapid pace.
Okay. Got
So
it.
maybe you did need to know it if it was in there, because we need to know everything in here. Period.
Okay.
I mean, I think we kind of.
See,
The Bible is on
I
a
don't.
the Bible is on a
Everything.
need to know basis.
It
It only tells you what you need to know.
That was like nitpicking at like part of one verse in this whole book. So
No, but that is a super
Very,
cool question. I love.
very specific section to go to.
I'm sorry. I
I'll
love
probably
this
use
Genesis
Professor
and
talk
time
about
to stay
that
with
and
me.
then Google it.
So I'm doing
You
this.
still have 3 more years.
It's
Stop
so
doing
I
it.
have a few more
It's
years to learn.
fun.
Yeah, but also he studied like all Bible,
True.
and he only has like a couple Bible classes, which he'll learn a lot
Only
in, but he might
one
not
of which
get,
I've gone through.
But he might not get that much depth.
Okay.
I haven't been to OT with Miller yet. I hear it's a very fun class.
I listened to all the
I'd
podcasts.
love to
Apparently
go to
Google's
that with
very
you.
helpful.
I'd love to take from Miller.
You can do it online. He posts every lecture he does. I did it. You don't get a credit, but you can listen anyway.
I listened to
I should do it.
Miller a
Yeah.
couple days last year. I had speech class at 8 o'clock, and then Miller's OT started at 9 o'clock. So I would sit right outside his class, and there were speakers above me, sharing what he had to say. It was pretty interesting stuff.
Cool.
And then at 10 o'clock, we had to go to chapel.
Right. Great at seeing it all.
Next question.
Well, if I don't think we have any questions in the audience right now, so
Stop looking at me.
well,
You come up with the best questions, though.
why don't
Biblical,
I don't
they're
care
not
if they're good
theological.
questions or bad questions. You guys, now's the time.
You could totally ask a theological question. though,
next.
Marge.
You asked a question about him, he
Question.
kind of owns the textbook.
Okay.
Yeah, right. And that's perfectly acceptable. But next question, someone posted online. It says, "Why do we eat ham on Easter?"
Good question. Why do we?
I have no idea. You see, I only have 18,
Josh.
almost 19 years on this
Who
earth,
posted that?
and I don't understand that tradition.
Me.
Uh-huh.
Pastor, you have a few years more than me.
Were you the one who
posted
it? Something? It's because Americans don't
We do love
know
bacon.
some Hebrew culture very well, which messes up how we do Easter and how we interpret the Bible.
Because Americans like their ham.
Big farms and
Because
sheep
of the
farms.
Tower of Babel nationalism, and we're like America, and we forget. Oh,
And people couldn't afford
Israel's
sheep
important.
or lamb, so
I
they
know.
bought the pig instead because they were
Pigs
both
were
farm
cool.
animals. So, you
I
know, they
actually
must
want
be
to
the
know who
same
asked that
thing.
question. That's just kind of.
Did it show up
I'd
as
like
anonymous,
to
or did
know.
someone actually post a question? Why isn't Lee here?
He has to do
We
a
answered
summer
that this
assignment
morning.
and he's in like.
We answered that earlier.
I think it was the
So-
second Stump the Intern.
I
Disciplinary.
have it as
Disciplinary.
anonymous.
You have it as anonymous?
Okay, who can put that in?
Richie did.
Someone probably asked it at youth group and I put it in.
That happened.
Oh,
I remember.
delete the abstract.
No, I didn't.
Sounds like something you'd ask.
Yeah,
You
it really
have asked
does.
this.
My guess is it's a product of there wasn't. Lamb has never been
Lamb's an expensive cut of meat.
a very, real popular meat in the U.S. It's very, very popular in other places.
And to
Here's
get,
my
the other
answer.
thing could be when the tradition was set, lamb is typically, to get a good cut of lamb, very expensive.
Well,
You can get cheap cuts of
Because
lamb,
it's rare.
but to get the good cut
No,
of lamb,
no,
it's expensive,
I
and
think-
it could have been set in a time period where people didn't have money.
the other thing
Oh,
may
the
be
ham
Easter's
part,
in
not
the
lamb
spring,
part.
Yeah.
well before harvest and so forth. You're at the end of the year. What meat is preserved easily?
Ham.
Hams.
Bacon.
Hams, because it's cured, so it doesn't.
But
It's so salty. That's why, right?
Put it in
Yes.
a bucket of salt. Last forever.
Right. So that may be
That's
that may be a
true.
product of the westward expansion of the United States. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That's
And there were
really
colonies
interesting
that
things
came
that
over
makes
in the
sense.
springtime, so that would make sense, the kind of meat that they would have brought over.